This is Vera of Vera's Custom Quilts, and I'm going to show you how I join Quilt As You Go blocks. First thing you want to do is pin your backing. Now that they're pinned, the next thing you want to do is put them together and sew them up just like you would any other piecing. After you've sewn your seam together, the next thing you want to do is press your seam open. And I'm using a Clover mini iron to do that. I love this thing. After you press your seam open, make sure that the batting is over it. So pull your batting out. And put your batting over the seam. And if your batting doesn't go all the way across, that's okay. There's a trick for that. You just take a strip of batting and put it right down the middle. But I'm going to glue mine in place, and I'm going to show you how I'll do that too. What I have here is my homemade basting spray that I made with gelatin, and you can find the recipe for that on my blog at verascustomquilts.blogspot.com. Now, I'm going to remove my pins from this side. And you'll notice that there's quite a bit of overlap right here. I'm going to cut that off. This basting spray that I use has to be heat set. You apply the iron until it's dry. It is not a tack adhesive. It will not gum up your needle, and it will always wash out. I love it. So I'm going to cut this right along where I've creased it, and it's going to butt up against this other fabric. Now, I want to take the pins out of the other side and fold this side over. Make sure they're both flush. See, this is where gluing comes in handy. It's going to hold this in place. Now for this, I normally fold it to this point here where it meets this edge, and then I'll cut off that fabric as well, and then I'll fold it again. What happened was I really cut my backing blocks too big, but I'd rather have too much fabric than not enough. Now fold it over, and this second fold is going to create almost a 1/4 inch seam. I think it's going to be kind of a 3/8. Now I know this process, or this part of it, is probably going to be like other videos that you've seen on YouTube, and that's okay. But I'm going to show you something a little bit different. Now I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to iron this because I sprayed this fabric with gelatin before I put that batting on it. So this is going to heat set that gelatin and secure the batting before I sew it up. Now we're ready to sew it. This is the different part that I wanted to show you. I'm using Coats & Clark transparent polyester with a 65-9 Microtech sharp needle and a clear view foot. And this is what I'm going to use to sew up the back seam. A lot of quilters are intimidated by what they call monofill, and it can be difficult to work with because it's so thin and it's flimsy. It twists up really easy. And I have my top tension set to 3. That's something you want to pay attention to, is your top tension. It needs to be a little bit more loose for monofill in the top than with regular sewing thread. What makes clear poly so difficult to work with is that it never comes off the spool straight. And I do mean never. It has kind of a permanent press thing going on. It gets spooled in the factory and you unspool it and it just stays curled up. I'm using it in my bobbin also. And this you won't be able to see. And that's the reason I use it. And I always start it the same way you start chain piecing, just to make sure that the tension is going to be right and it's going to sew well before I start on a project. It's always a good idea. And my phone is moving a little bit. I like for people to be able to look over my shoulder when I'm working. If I film a video, I want them to see what I see. And I watch videos on YouTube all the time where I'm looking at the person. I can't always see what they're doing. I'm not getting it from their viewpoint. what you want to do when you sew at this seam is you want to get that needle as close to the edge of that seam as possible. So I'm going to use my hand wheel and drop that needle down to where I need it before I start sewing. I'll take a few foundation stitches and I'll blow this up so you can see what I'm doing. There. I like for people to see reality in my videos. I'm not a fancy studio quilter. I'm just a home quilter, no different than the rest of you. There. Now we can take a look at it. I just sewed up this block, and right here's the seam. You can see it. It's all the way up. Now what I like to do that most people don't do is I reinforce my seam on either side of it, here and here. And this is the center seam right here. I think something that might be interesting for a Quilt As You Go block is doing decorative stitches on this quarter seam right here. I think that'd be really cute.